Diaries of a Madman. By What Must I Do? Chapter 202, Part 2 of 2. It was all going really well, right up until I led the way through the portal. As soon as my feet were on the other side, my body was enveloped by white wings and I was firmly pressed into a squishy sun horse. "Good afternoon, Navi," Celestia warmly said. "I was just heading to lunch when I saw you appear." By this point, the other three had joined us on this side of the portal. "You were clearly waiting here to ambush us," Luna said. "Guards, how long has this worthless princess been standing here waiting?" Both of the guards refused to meet her eyes, their ears twitching. "Tisk, of course. And just how long do you intend to cling to my lady?" "At least until she hugs me back, for sure," Celestia replied, snuggling me closer. "She's so comfy." I sighed and finally hugged Celestia back. "You still haven't joined me for breakfast yet, Navi. It's literally my first morning back, and I got dragged to do stuff out in Ponyville and then kidnapped by your test subjects." "Well, I'd be fine with you joining me for lunch, instead. Not even concerned with the fact that I got kidnapped?" "I see how it is. My kidnappers force-fed me until I could barely move," I said. "It's only been a couple of hours since then. Do you truly want me to suffer so? You're just looking for an excuse not to hang out with me, aren't you?" Celestia asked, finally releasing me from her stranglehold. "You know, if you're around me, I certainly wouldn't allow any kidnappers to get you. Unlike your vassals, apparently. Would Celestia be able to stop Pinky? I wonder. Isn't it a little early for lunch? I have a busy schedule today, so I decided to take it early." "Are you sure you won't join me, Navi?" Luna was the only one who didn't get stuffed. "She might be interested." "I'd certainly be happy to have her," Celestia said, turning hopeful eyes toward her ex-sister. "I must return to my duties," Luna said. "I can eat at the bunker." "You can take some time away," I said. "You said the current bottleneck was Zekora, anyway. Surely that means you can take half a day away from the front." "If you command it, I will eat with this mare," Luna said, looking down. That made Celestia look pretty depressed for just a moment, but she hid it quickly. "I can't order you to make friends. I guess I'll join the princess, even if I don't feel like eating at the moment. There are things we need to talk about anyway. Luna, take Cot and the revolver back to the house before you return to the bunker. I'll have Celestia teleport me home when we're done talking." "Twilight, what about you?" "No offense to the princess, but even the smell of more food might make me nauseous right now," Twilight said, patting her tummy with a hoof. "Pinky really knows how to pile it on. I still can't believe you ate as much as you did." "Must I return?" Cot asked, clinging to my arm again. "I'm not going to need a guard while talking to Celestia. Take some time to manicure your nails or something. We do have a pageant coming up, after all." "As you wish," she said, pulling back with a curtsy. Thankfully, she wasn't wasting my time with her fake tears. "Farewell for now, my lady," Luna said. Her horn lit up and the two of them vanished. "After that breakfast, I need to get some writing done," Twilight said. "I'll stop by later, Nav." "See you then," I said, scratching one of her ears. She beamed for a moment before teleporting off. "So now I have you all to myself," Celestia said, looming closer. "Yep. Shall we head to the dining room?" "Let's." And so I was led off by a very happy Celestia. I really didn't want to go with her, but I also really didn't want her to get lonely enough to turn evil again. "You know, you're welcome to play with my ears, too. Are you going to use your hair to assault me if I do?" "No, of course not," she replied after a moment. "I consider tickling to count as assault," I said. "Oh. Then yes, I will. I'm not really interested in getting tickled, so I'll hold off on rubbing the princess's precious ears." After all, far be it for me, a lowly vassal, to touch the body of the great Princess Celestia herself. It's like you're just begging to be cuddled, Celestia said, giggling. If I promise to keep my hair to myself, will you play with my ears? Yes. A few long seconds passed as we continued to walk in silence. Finally, she looked at me and lifted an eyebrow. Well, where's your promise? Oh, so you did learn something from your coma. So be it. I promise I won't use my hair against you if you touch my ears in this instance. With that, I started toying with her long, slightly fluffy ears. The servants and guards we passed stared at us awkwardly, but nobody said anything. When we got to her dining room, I realized my main reason for coming here was moot. Spike was waiting for us inside, so there's no way Celestia would have gotten lonely. He was definitely surprised to see me, too. Nav? What are you doing here? I got ambushed and kidnapped by a princess while I was in the palace for business. There was talk of using her hair against me, so I was forced to rub her ears to keep her at bay. That's quite the interpretation of events, Celestia proclaimed as she took her seat at the head of the table. Spike was sitting on the other side of the table, so I took the place opposite of him. I happened to bump into Nav while I was on my way to lunch and invited her. You were waiting directly on the other side of the portal with your wings outstretched to nab me the instant I appeared. That does sound a lot like an ambush, Spike said, staring at his pseudo-mother suspiciously. We'll have to agree to disagree, I'm afraid, Celestia said. Her horn lit up and a bell chimed somewhere. Moments later, the servants came out and did their thing, filling the table with all kinds of delectable-looking things, including a large steak for Spike and a small fillet of salmon for me. I wasn't really expecting food, but fish was light enough that I could probably handle a little. Ah, now I can't make any meat puns, Spike said. He was staring at my fish in disappointment. I was in Ponyville earlier. Pinky dragged me to Sugar Cube Corner. I can't really eat much at the moment, so I guess this is Celestia's way of telling me to get over it. You still aren't confident your body is healed, Celestia said, patting me on the shoulder with a wing. You'll need all manner of nutrients to ensure the process is finished, correct? I'm sure you can manage a little, even if it's just to make me feel better as a host. As her princessness wills it, I said, taking up my fork once more. I guess her princessness is better than Sunbutt, Spike muttered as he started cutting into his steak. Celestia, do you think it would be possible to build an airship the size of that dreadnought with Equestria's tech? I ask. Yes, but it wouldn't be nearly as efficient. The amount of unicorns required to power it would be immense. The engine on that ship is incredibly efficient and a joint team of changelings, griffins, and ponies are studying it now. Jonathan knows enough to maintain it, but lacks the magical knowledge to comprehend exactly how it was built. None of those he absorbed had the knowledge of the schematics, either. That said, the research team ensures me they're making progress. If we can duplicate that engine, we can do a lot more than create airships with it. Cars would be possible, wouldn't they? Indeed. You could also attach them to boats or trains. Just the engine alone could be revolutionary. Because of that, plus all the other impressive artifacts you helped uncover, I intend to increase your noble rank. Nobles have ranks here? I ask. A very few of them do, specifically those who have accomplished great things. Their increased rank is not hereditary, however, so all that passes on is the status of lord or lady. As I'm sure you can imagine, most of my lazy populace are incapable of earning such things. You, however, are now Countess Navarone. If things go well in the Tartarus campaign, I intend to make you a duchess and give you even more territory. Hey! Last night, when I spoke to Moonbeam, she made her intentions toward you clear, Celestia said. She still intends to have your hand. If she somehow succeeds in obtaining it, I'd rather her be tied to a high-ranking equestrian noble for diplomatic purposes. Although I'd much rather have that hand, myself. Is that really your only reason for increasing my rank? No, of course not. My reason is that you earned it. Making you more valuable in diplomacy is just a secondary bonus. Do I get any benefits in particular with this rank? Why yes, I'm glad you ask. As tempting as it is to give you Ponyville, I have other things in mind for that place. So instead, I'm giving you colonists, free materials, and free labor to help build up a town right outside the ever-free. Colonists? I said, lifting an eyebrow. What kind of colonists? I've had 5 groups of applicants so far. Her horn lit up and a folder for each appeared in the air. She set them down on the table. These hold all the information you'll need. It didn't take me very long to eat the fish, so I picked up the first folder and cracked it open. To my surprise, a small clan of Naga heard of my exploits and, since their home was surrounded by monsters and their water was receding, they wanted to move. They knew I was a friend to the Naga through their connection with the clan I was technically a member of. If I decided to take them into my colony, they'd make me the clan head, even though I was female. There were 234 males, most of which were of fighting age, and 317 females. Apparently if I wanted to accept, I needed to contact their representative with the Naga I was friendly with. Spike, what do you think about Naga? I ask. The only downside will be feeding that many, he said. I helped put those files together, by the way. I approve of all of them. I have contacts with the Griffins. I'm sure buying meat and livestock from them won't be too difficult. Celestia, how hard is it to build out something like a spring with magic? It's not very difficult, but Naga don't necessarily have to live in springs, she said. Though they do have adverse health effects if they stay out of water for too long. It would be enough to dig out, say, a hot spring for all the residents to enjoy. Makes sense. Let's take a look at the next. The second folder was actually more of a contract. Apparently the dog I fought at the Griffin Festival wanted to bring his mercenary group to work for me. He had 100 heavy dog infantry, 30 Griffin scouts, 15 unicorns with various talents, and 10 cat scouts. The contract stipulated that I'd pay them a decent monthly salary, with possible bonuses to be discussed after combat based on their achievements. The only weird part is that getting to have sex with me at least once was one of the guy's requirements, the only one he absolutely wouldn't negotiate on. I may have mentioned something like that to him before the fight, but I couldn't remember for sure. There was probably no need for that many mercenaries, but as I thought about it for a few moments, I realized I could always find a use for them. So, you approve of the mercenaries, too? I ask, looking up at Spike. I thought one of his conditions was a little strange, but apparently you two have some kind of history, so I just assumed you seduced him. I figured you wouldn't mind a little extra muscle, especially if we're heading into Tartarus. You figured right. But I might find uses for them beforehand. Celestia, are there any problems with pirates you need handled? As a matter of fact, yes, she said. Why? Because I wouldn't mind putting my mercenaries to work by stealing a whole bunch of boats from some pirates. With Luna to teleport them all in, I'm sure we could take out entire pirate cities. I'll happily pay a bounty for any pirate you capture or kill, any ship you manage to sink or seize, and any den or city you either claim or raise. Can we give the pirates I capture to Moonbeam in exchange for the political prisoners Oldalscha sent her? Those were my thoughts exactly, Celestia replied with a nod. 4 birds with 1 stone. Very impressive, Navarone. So what will you do with the boats you seize? Turn them into airships and use them for trading and passengers, assuming the other colonists have the knack for it. So let's see what else we got. I opened folder number 3 to find it was showing the kobolds from Hawaii. Apparently someone stole the fire god that was keeping the volcanoes on their island mostly dormant. Someone also apparently killed the shaman who would normally be in charge of using magic to protect the clan from eruptions. Because of that, the kobolds were in dire need of a new place to live. With the help of the elementals, they made it to Equestria and now needed somewhere to settle. For various reasons, mostly because they were brainwashed into it, they decided to appeal to me for protection. Accepting it made me feel a little dirty, but I got over it quickly. Do you think the kobolds still hold a grudge? I ask. It obviously can't be that bad, if they're coming to you for protection, Spike said. Spike told me the circumstances, Celestia said. I wish you had more patience, Nav. I understand the desire for revenge, but with a species so rare, more caution might have been warranted, in my opinion. Noted. The next application was from Changelings. Moonbeam knew I was setting up a town and wanted to invest early with labor. She was offering 500 drones, 400 sentience, and 100 intelligentsia. Many of the more intelligent changelings had been working as researchers and inventors at the Hive, so they could help at the university. Half the drones were used to building and the other half were used to mining. I'm not sure there was much to really mine, but I'm sure there was something to harvest somewhere in the Everfree. And if nothing else, they could be retrained. The changelings would also bring their own food sources. That was obviously a no-brainer. I accepted them immediately and reached for the last folder. Unfortunately, that was the folder that immediately made me sigh. Really? I ask, looking up to Spike. Yep, he replied with a nod. Really? Since he was no help, I looked over to Celestia. Really? Indeed, she said, smiling. Really? The monkeys from South America knew I was still alive. Apparently Celestia explained the circumstances to them. Despite knowing I wasn't really all that feminine or queenly and that I was only doing it because Spike was a hostage, they still wanted to be with me. Or at least, some of them did. 1,000 monkeys were offering to join me, 500 males and 500 females. More probably wanted to come, but they knew they had to limit the numbers for a fledgling town. I mean, the monkeys do have some interesting magic, including some useful teleport stuff, I said. They also have at least some combat capability and could probably use a crossbow effectively. As long as they don't expect me to act super queenly, I guess I don't mind. That's gonna give me a whole lot of people, though. Are you comfortable having this many other species a stone's throw away from Canterlot? You will keep them in check, Celestia said. I take it you approve of all 5 applications. I suppose. You said you'll help with construction. Does that include a road? And a skydock, since you're going to be in possession of many airships? I can provide airship technicians and crew to train your colonists. I'll want train tracks as well, but that can wait. How long do you think it'll take to build the city out? With the help of the changelings as well, our current worst-case estimate is 3 months to have enough temporary housing for all of your colonists. We'll continue providing help until everything else is built, but we'll have to estimate timing for that later. Since this is an entirely new town, it'll be tax-exempt for a few years. Use that time to build it up. I'll need your help along the way, both for guidance and either materials or personnel. But of course, she said. That's what your princess is there for, Nav. Please come to me first, in fact. I'll probably go to Flo first for most things, since she'll get mad if I don't and she's more convenient. But I can use her to get to you if she can't help me. Well, that can't be helped, Celestia said, shrugging. Now, I know that we're gearing up for a war on Tartarus, but I don't want you to make this town focused solely on war-making. In fact, I'd greatly prefer if you would focus it on trade and logistics. You told me once that in your time, you could go to a market to buy goods from all over the world. That isn't possible in Equestria, but I'd like to start changing that. Increasing the amount of trading will help. It'll also help kickstart our economy, since it's been fairly stagnant. So, you're giving me permission to start a few companies? I ask. Indeed. Once you have the details of the companies down, provide them to me and I'll ensure some government loans. At the very least, they'll cover the costs of converting your pirate boats into airships. Before I agree to that, I want you to understand that by doing this, you might be handing the reins of your economy over to me. Once I start, it's likely I'll pick up momentum until I'm dragging everyone else behind me. I might take a few steps to prevent you from being able to go too overboard, she said, but I don't intend to stop you unless I think things are going to begin spiraling out of control. I only want you to promise that you'll help make Equestria prosper. I can guarantee that things will change. Airships are pretty rare, aren't they? They're too expensive for most companies to buy, yes, she said. It's unheard of for any individual to have more than one. Even the largest companies possess no more than 10. If you include both the ones you take from the pirates and the ones you make, you'll clearly be leading the market by leaps and bounds. Things are gonna get really crazy soon, Spike said. How are we going to keep track of all of those ships? Radios, I said. We'll also be the only traders who have those. We can use each ship as a repeater to send signals from headquarters out to everyone at the same time. With that, we can constantly update everyone else on prices so we can snatch the best deals away before anyone else can get them. I do hope you're planning on spending the money you're making instead of letting it all sit in one place, Celestia said. If things go well, I'll pay to have more skydocks built in other cities, and manage them as trading headquarters. If things go really well, I'll start more companies to either grow things or produce them. After all, too many traders without enough things to trade is a problem. Wonderful. Of course, you also have contacts with the cats and the spiders. Do you think you could get goods from either? From the cats, yes. We can use Catro as a hub to trade further into Africa. As for the spiders, I honestly don't know. I'd have to go and ask in person. I'll do it eventually, but I'm not in a hurry. With all the money I'll be raking in, I kinda wonder if starting a bank might be on the table eventually. Why would you want to start a bank? Spike asked. Because I'll live for a very long time. Establishing a bank will give me access to all kinds of business opportunities in the future, and the sooner I do it, the more branches I can open and the more opportunities I can get. More opportunities for loans also means more economic growth. I've never personally needed a loan, but Applejack told me that most loans are difficult to get, and even if you do, the interest rates will break you. If I can offer more reasonable rates, more businesses can start. I can also use the banks to manage my own properties and employees. It certainly seems that the coma changed you, all right, Celestia said. Plus, I'd love to put a dragon in charge of it. Imagine how huge and powerful they'd become. Do you have any dragons in mind? Spike slowly asked. Yes. To move on to another subject, what are your thoughts on the progress of the dreadnought, Celestia? I ask. Are the golems to your liking? Indeed. I have a few in the palace for research purposes now. However, something troubles me. There are a few runes that Jack doesn't quite understand. These runes seem pivotal in making the golems actually behave. My concern is that Athena retains some manner of overall control over these golems because of these runes. Because of that, I request that you visit the city of the Minotaurs with Jack and ask them to help you research the runes. If we can understand them better, we can remove that concern entirely. The Minotaurs will also be able to help us prepare for the war. All solid points. I'll do so, but I'm not sure when. I'm sure some of them will be willing to set up shop in a human-owned town, too. I don't want to make the population too massive all at once, though. That's the reason I limited the number of applicants to 5, Celestia said. The cats and griffins wanted to send some settlers, and if things with the city go well, I intend to see about having some ponies move there. How did you manage to turn down the griffins in favor of the mercenaries? I ask. If the changelings are getting in, won't the griffins feel slighted? I explained that the changeling drones will be used for labor and that the upper-ranking changelings are necessary to control them. The Griffins aren't dumb enough to think setting up a new city from scratch is easy. Their talents lie in places other than building. They assented to move in later and let the mercenaries act as your security forces. That way, no Griffin settler would have to worry about having to build, and they can come in later to a more built-up and defended location. It is, after all, right on the edge of one of the most infamous danger zones in mainland Equestria. Fair enough. I guess the monkeys are zealous enough not to care, the Naga are desperate and know enough about me to understand I can protect them, the changelings know I have a plan for dealing with the forest, and the kobolds were brainwashed by the water elementals, so that's a no-brainer. Overall. Wait a moment, what was that last one? Spike asked, rudely butting in. One of the visions I saw in the coma was of mist invading the mind of the kobold chief and telling him to move to the Everfree. Is that so? Celestia whispered, her ears twitching. I'm very curious who else they might have brainwashed behind the scenes, I said. At this point, they've been purified, so hopefully that kind of behavior has stopped. I'm not really sure how to curtail that kind of behavior, other than telling them not to do it. Well, not all brainwashing is bad, I suppose, Celestia said. I'm certainly quite thankful for it. So, is there anything else I need to know about my new rank? I ask. Naturally, it increases the amount of authority you have, especially over other nobles. There won't be any more fools attempting to stab you in the back, that's for sure. Any insults you may have gotten will definitely stop. There will probably be some envy, but I'll wait to officially announce everything until the ship you captured has arrived. Once everyone learns what happened at the zone, no one will be able to say a word of complaint. Anything else? One minor thing of note, something I assume you won't care too much about. It gives you the right to take another name. In your case, you would become Countess Navarone Everfree. That's not necessary. Do I have any new responsibilities? Nothing you weren't already planning on doing, Celestia said. Essentially, being a count means building up your territory and being able to adequately defend it, as well as being able to lead soldiers to Equestria's defense in times of conflict. The main reason your rank didn't start as a baroness is because Oldalscha was paranoid. Because of that, I skipped a few ranks. At the moment, you are one of 5 counts in mainland Equestria. The other 4 each govern a large section of land for me. The size of your new town will pale in comparison at first, but I'm expecting that to change quickly. If you manage to become a duchess, you'll become one of 4 in all of Equestria. That would be neat, I guess. Although, on the flip side of that, would you care too much if, after I conquered Tartarus, I was able to turn it into my own kingdom? I suppose that would be one way to solve the issue of dividing the territory, she said. A part of me is surprised you'd ask. Do you truly want to be a princess? Or a queen, maybe? If I can obtain a soul, I think it might be neat. The main issue is whether or not the native races there would follow me. If they would, then I think I might like that. I'm game, Spike said. Let's make you a princess, Navi. That does tell me something disappointing, though, Celestia said. If you intend to make a kingdom for yourself, that means you won't marry either me or Moonbeam. Who'd want to marry a several thousand-year-old hag? Not necessarily, I replied, reaching over to try and bop her. She caught my finger in her mouth instead and nibbled on it a little before letting go. Besides, what are our other options? Divvying Tartarus up among the conquering armies? Letting the local races keep it and hope they can maintain control without going belly up or starting a civil war? Maybe taking the place as a vassal country. Ooh, I like that option, Celestia said. I could declare it the Duchy of Tartarus. You'd essentially act as a separate country, but you'd technically be our vassal nation. I think the changelings would still agree to work with us under those conditions. We can try to convince the Griffins. It's something we can discuss in detail at the upcoming conference between leaders. Alright, I might be okay with that. Maybe it'll depend on my accomplishments in the war and how the locals perceive me. Anyway, that can all be decided later, assuming we can even make headway into that hellscape. With luck, the dreadnought will make that possible. Speaking of that Goliath of a ship, it needs a name, Celestia said. There was a clamor among the crew to name it after you. I'm pretty sure one of the water elementals instigated it, but I shut it down. Do you have any thoughts? The first big and famous ship that comes to mind is the Titanic, of course. Obviously I'm not naming my ship something so ill-fated. Then again, it's less of a boat and more of a flying fortress, to be honest. Not only that, but it's a flying fortress full of bugs and crafters. So, how does Skyhold sound? I ask. That doesn't really sound like a ship name, Spike said. But I guess Second Chance is also a little strange. Nav isn't considering it a boat, Celestia said, staring at me and smiling even wider. You consider it to be a town, don't you? Yes. While thinking of it as a town, what do you think of Skyhold? If I'm honest, I think you could afford to upgrade it to Sky City, Celestia said. That boat is very large. Even with the crafters I provided, there's still plenty of room. It's not really gonna start out as a city, though. Would it be a problem if we changed the name as it grew? Skyhold to Skyton to Skyfort to Skycity to Skiopolis to Skytopia. That's just way too overboard, Spike said. Imagine the amount of paperwork you'll have to do to change each time. Pick one and stick with it. I approve of Skyhold, Skycity, and Skytopia, Celestia said. Pick one. What? Skytopia was one of the joke names. In that case, I'll stick to Skyhold. Once the war is over, I'd like to start charging rent and a reasonable cost of the materials. With the goods they can craft and with the ability to travel around to sell things in various cities, I think a lot of craftsmen would be happy to pay. Enough that I might be able to hire them instead and turn the entire ship into my own personal factory. You have a lot more ideas than I thought, Spike said. For some reason, he looked proud. I think things are gonna get real fun around here. Good. Be careful, Celestia. I might snipe Spike back from you. I'll let you borrow him from time to time, Celestia said. But if you want him for good, you'll have to pry him from my cold, dead hooves. But don't worry, old Ulscha put an incredibly evil curse on this body that will turn me into a ridiculously powerful undead if I'm ever murdered, so I'll be coming back for him soon. I don't think I want an undead mother, so please don't, Spike said. Thank you for the warning about one of your trump cards, I said. Now I have even more reason to want to keep you alive. That's okay, she said, patting me on the head with one of her wings. After all, I have a request in exchange for that information. I would like one of your trump cards. Now that was a tall order. I did have a seed I was currently gestating, but I intended to give it to Luna, not Celestia. Still, though, I was planning on giving Celestia one of them eventually. I knew the chance was low, but if Celestia ever reverted, I didn't want her to know right where one of my important trees was. I see that you're hesitating, Celestia quietly said. Then I'll add this condition. I won't plant it myself. I plan to give it to another to have them plant it for me, in a location I am unaware of. It's not that I don't trust you. I'm just that terrified of who you once were. I'll be jumping at her specter for a long time to come, I'm sure. She thoroughly traumatized you, so that's understandable, Celestia said, looking down. I'll do my best to ease your mind and help you forget her. Well, I was planning on giving you one eventually anyway. The one I have will be done later tonight. I was there when you put it in. I'll stop by to pick it up later. Can I have a seed later, too? Spike asked. No hurry, but I'd love to grow myself a mini nav. It just makes a big cherry blossom tree. You've seen the two in my backyard, right? One is mine, the other is Taya's. But yet, I can give you one eventually, as long as you promise not to do something dumb like planting it in a pot. Your new town and university will also need names, Celestia said. I was thinking the university could be called the Everfree Institute. As for the town, I plan to build Eden elsewhere, so I need to think of something else. Wait, it's a town in Equestria. That means it has to be a shitty horse pun, right? That isn't a requirement, but it is recommended, Celestia said. The worse the pun is, the better the tax breaks for the citizens. So if you really want to think of the long-term benefits of everyone, you should make your name as cringy as you possibly can. Wait, is that why all the tax forms are wonky? Spike demanded, slamming a claw on the table. No, I was joking, Celestia said. The tax forms are wonky because of embezzling, and I put you in charge of it because no nose can follow gold like a dragon's. You've already uncovered 2 corrupt nobles. So it's fine if the name isn't a pun. I ask. It certainly goes against the national tradition, but we also don't have any cities that weren't founded by ponies, or later renamed after their native populations relocated. So, maybe make it a human pun instead. Well, I'm the lady of nature and it's going to be built into a forest, so probably something woodsy. It's a shame the signature flower of the Everfree is called something as dumb as Poison Joke, which happens to be yet another shitty pun. Wait, what's that a pun of? Spike asked. In my time, it was Poison Oak. Instead of pranking you, it caused a painful rash and sometimes blisters. And instead of being pretty flowers, it was just a green leafy vine. Well, the town doesn't need a name immediately, Celestia said. We will need a name before we break ground on it, though. And since you're actually building up a town now instead of just a university, Moonbeam agreed to leave your house so you can stay there when you're working on things. In fact, she'll be adding several more buildings inside the walls for your followers. The university will go elsewhere. That works, I guess. I bet I'll get fewer guests there, at least. Are you thinking something mean? Spike asked. I'm an ex-human. Chances are, most of what I think will be mean. I guess I'll come up with a name for that later. So, a lot of the mercenaries I'm hiring are dogs. And I'm also getting a lot of changelings. Do you have any advice about that? Provide enough distractions that they don't have time to worry about being angry. Or teach the dogs that changelings have value as allies. Either way, the leader of their merry band of mercenaries has already been apprised. It's likely he's taking steps to curtail issues. But do keep in mind that you're dealing with mercenaries, regardless of their fighting ability, their discipline will leave something to be desired. You might be surprised. I've seen elite dog mercenaries before, back in Egypt. The good ones didn't fuck around. They might have some minor issues in the rank and file, but overall, their quality was good. I don't know if the same will be true for mercs on this side of the ocean, though. With luck, they won't have any conflicts with the changelings. I don't think the Naga will have any issues with the others. The kobolds and the monkeys are complete unknowns, though. As the countess of the town, it'll be your responsibility to ensure the community is at peace. There are definitely going to be cultural differences, but you need to find a way to bridge the gap. Changeling whorehouses, obviously, I said. I mean, that's something everyone can enjoy. Prostitution's legal, right? That means we can tax it. Whore. Changeling whorehouses, hey. Celestia slowly said. Is that really what you want your territory to be known for? They're a lot more fun than you're imagining, I said. Back me up here, Spike. You know you want to visit one again, right? Spike immediately face-palmed. Again. Celestia hissed, turning to glare at her son. What exactly does Navarone mean by again? So, lunch was nice, I whispered, pushing my chair back and standing. I think maybe I'll see myself out after all. Don't you dare abandon me, you coward! Spike shouted. Nav's the one who dragged me there. I was just about out of the room when he finished his accusation. A golden glow instantly covered my body and I got placed back in my seat. If I'm gonna get yelled at, I'm taking you with me. I don't see why I'm needed for a talk about a family matter, I said, struggling to get out of my seat. I didn't drag anyone anywhere. I invited him. He chose to accompany me. I am in no way at fault. I didn't even know changeling whorehouses existed until you told me. Spike shouted, slamming a fist onto the table. And there's no way I ever would have gone if it wasn't for your bad influence. Don't blame your life choices on me, Spike. You're only regretting it because Celestia seemed mad about it. But look at her now. She's smiling, so that obviously means she's okay with it. No, that's the smile she wears when she's disappointed. The lecture is still incoming. I don't see why I should be subjected to a lecture for something you did, something that has. Don't you ever get tired of this? Celestia asked. Yes, getting accused of being responsible for something I didn't do does get old, I replied. I see. That's disappointing. Why did you invite my son to a changeling whorehouse, Nav? A few reasons. For one, I had been in the hive for a few days with Moonbeam and I hadn't seen him in a bit. He wanted to do something together. That's not really much to do in the hive and I remembered that Mooney wanted feedback on one of her projects, so I figured a more diverse set of opinions would be helpful. Another reason is because Spike was unreasonably afraid of changelings for some reason, as if he thought they would hurt him. I wanted to show him that they certainly had their upsides and that not all of them are scary. Third, because I figured he would enjoy it. The fourth reason is semi-private, involving something Spike told me right before I invited him. He shared a secret, I replied with another secret, and that ended up depressing him a little. So I figured he could use some cheering up. It's not like it was a planned thing, it just sorta happened. So you let my son lose his purity to a whore? Celestia coldly asked. Hey? I thought he lost that after Shiny's bachelor party, that night he sent you all those sex toys. Or was it on Doppel? Nav. Spike hissed. Perhaps I won't let you borrow my son anymore after all, Celestia said, narrowing her eyes. Nat, it's too late. I've already taught him more than enough to get by without me. All you'd accomplish by keeping him away from me is fueling his teen angst and making him act out by banging even more bitches. I believe Cadance mentioned something about a tool she uses to keep shining armor in order. Perhaps I should ask her for more information. It might do wonders on my harlot of a son. I'm not a harlot. Spike said. I'm just a normal growing guy. And it's not like you can talk, after everything you've done with N2 Nav. And poor Fleur. Yeah, harlot is a little rough. At most, he's a horn dog. Or, as he put it, a normal growing guy. What's wrong with dicking bitches down every now and then? Nav used to be considerably worse than I ever was, and that never stopped you from jumping his bones, Spike said. So what right do you have to judge, Mom? You mean like my right of motherhood over you? It's every parent's job to want their child to do better than them. With my past behavior, it's obvious I'm trying to make it easy on you. So why are you struggling? Just be patient, Spike. I'd be happy to find you the perfect bride. There are a few promising candidates in the mainland dragons. Then you won't have to debase yourself on whores like Nav. She does have some kind of point, I said. Finding a nice female dragon you can get along with wouldn't be a bad thing. Just be super careful. If any high-ranking dragons find out you're Bahamut's son, there might be problems. You found out who your father is? Celestia quickly asked. I didn't think I'd find any answers here, so I made sure to find them in Iceland, Spike replied. And that's smart, Nav. Pyrite said he'll kill me if the news gets out. My father's still alive, after all. His son might get propped up as a symbol to oppose Pyrite. And you didn't think to report this to me? Celestia demanded, turning to me. I wasn't aware that Pyrite mentioned killing Spike if news got out. That's news to me, too. I meant the part about Bahamut being his father. Oh. No, I didn't think to report it. She stared at me in silence for several long uncomfortable seconds, compelling me to keep talking. If you'll recall, you weren't interested in talking to me at the time. I left the detailed debriefing to Spike, since he was there for the important parts. I gave you the bullet points of the primary goal of my journey later, which was freeing the fire elemental. I didn't see any reason to apprise you of further unnecessary details. You two conspired behind my back to discover information I had hidden. Celestia said, her whole body sagging. I suppose I have no right to be angry. If Pyrite did threaten to murder you, that ruins a few plans I had for your destiny. But I don't think it's unsalvageable. What if I don't want to be given a destiny? Spike asked. What if I want to forge my own? Then I'd say you've been spending too much time around Nav, Celestia said. But that can be a conversation for later, between just the two of us. Navarone. Who else has defiled my son? You know the griffin traveling with us? The one who isn't the princess. Her name is also Gilda. She's his main fucktoy at the moment. The air elemental Aerie has done some weird stuff to him, but I don't know the details. I'm not aware of anyone else. Her lie detector went off. Well, there was that one secret occasion he'd kill me if I mentioned. Oh, and that other super secret situation you both might get violent about. You know, now that I think about it, maybe Spike is a harlot. So, two very secretive things, Celestia said, turning her gaze back onto Spike. Secrets, I see. You know, good sons don't keep secrets from mommy, Spike. You can trust me with whatever burdens your soul. I will keep that in mind, Spike said. I think I know the two things Nav's talking about. Neither is a burden. They're just, you know, secrets. Well then. Celestia's eyes once more moved to me. What manner of female does my son prefer? Mom! Spike shouted, jumping to his feet. This should really be more of a family discussion, shouldn't it? I ask. Don't make me narrow my eyes at you again, Countess, Celestia said. I mean, how am I supposed to know his preference? First he liked Rarity, who's super ladylike, prissy, and all manner of girly. His next crush was radically different in just about every way. And his current squeeze is Gilda, who's a dumb abrasive battle junkie. I don't really see a common thread there. Maybe he just likes sexy. Spike groaned and returned to his seat. Can we please go back to discussing Nav's town? I have one more question, Celestia said. This is a yes or no question and the lie detector is on. If your answer is anything other than yes or no, I'm stealing at least one of your arms. So. Nav. Have you slept with my son? Just like that, the dragon across the table from me seemed to deflate. I did my best not to react, but my face definitely twitched a little. Which arm should I offer? Actually, she'll probably take both. Yes. That made her narrow her eyes at me again. This was shortly after I got freed from Aqua. I was desperate to feel something. Spike happened to be available. Impure, Celestia whispered. I don't even want to hear it, Missy, I said. If we're not going to go back to discussing my town, can you send me home? I think you mentioned having something important to do after this anyway. A few things might need to be rescheduled, Celestia said, huffing. Apparently I need to have a very important talk with my son, who chose to take advantage of a lady in her time of desperation. Wah! That's not what happened. Spike shouted. Let me recall his words at the time, I said, thinking to myself. I believe it was something like, I've been waiting for you to ride my dick since you lost yours. I knew you couldn't resist. So it seems my son truly has learned well from his master, Celestia said, looking disdainfully at the poor lizard. I suppose that was your own fault, Nav. But that doesn't mean I won't be giving him a talking to anyway. Obviously he's been listening to the wrong advice. It's the right advice if you wanna get what I was saying. Got cut off by the sound of teleportation. I quickly realized I was sitting on top of Cot, who had been lying on my bed for some reason. Less than a second later, her entire body was wrapped around me. Wishes really do come true, she shouted. I'm back, Cot, I said. I would have hugged her, but my arms were trapped by her iron grip. Why were you on my bed? To get more of your scent, my lady, she replied. It was faint, but I could hear her sniffing my hair. Are you not helping at the bunker? How could I possibly neglect to protect my lady? Now that you've returned to us, I have to keep my eyes on you as much as possible to make sure you stay safe. Then I guess you get to be the first one to hear. I'm founding a town, apparently. The residents will be mostly Naga, kobolds, changelings, and monkeys. The guards will be from a mercenary connection I made a few weeks ago. It's about time more people became aware of your greatness, Cot said, leaning back enough so she could actually look at me. We shall turn this town of yours into the true capital of Equestria, my lady. Also, I'm technically no longer a lady. Her eyes shot wide open. I am now a countess. Congratulations, countess. And then, for some reason, she kissed me deeply. It was kinda weird, but I bore with it until she pulled back. Why did you kiss me? I quietly asked. I couldn't think of any other way to congratulate you physically, since I'm already hugging you, she replied, rubbing her nose against mine. Having you in my grasp is so perfect, countess. So, you wanna let me go? No. Cot, let me go. She did so, but was plainly reluctant. Is the portal to the big ship still open? I believe so, yes. Good. I slid off the bed. Cot joined me moments later and started straightening my dress. We're going to go visit it. What's the easiest way there? We should take the teleporter to the fort. From there, we can take another teleporter to the ship. Shall I go fetch one of the guard unicorns? If you'd be so kind. I'll be waiting on the teleporter. We'll join you shortly. With that, we both left my room. The instant I stepped out of my door, I got drenched by a water elemental. Flo's pink body quickly pulled away. When I looked down, my outfit was back to pristine condition. Cot was already nowhere to be seen. Congratulations on your promotion, Nav, she said. You should tell Doppel before you leave so she can plan something special for tonight to celebrate. This is Doppel we're talking about. She plans something special every night. Besides, I don't see any reason to celebrate this. You can let the people here know if you want. Let us know what? Doppel asked. Apparently she had been hovering in the air a few meters down so we couldn't see her. Now she was using the railing in front of me to prop herself up so she could stare at me. What does she mean by promotion? And why don't you think we'd care? I never said anything about you guys caring or not, I replied. And by promotion, she meant my noble rank. Celestia made me a countess. Doppel's eyes went wide. Also, as part of my promotion, Celestia's helping me found a town near the Everfree. We definitely have to celebrate. I'll make tonight even more special than usual, my lady. Is celebrating really necessary? I ask. Of course. We have to cheer for the new people who will be taught the greatness of our countess. I'll go get started on preparations right away. She let go of the railing and fell back down. I didn't hear a splatter, so her wings probably took over at some point. Whatever she was up to didn't really concern me that much, so I walked on down to the teleport circle. The hornless mare from the tower was walking around the circle, staring at it from various angles and muttering. I thought it might take her a little longer to get back, but apparently not. What do you think of it? I asked. Oh, my lady, she exclaimed, jumping up. I was just so surprised to see one here. Where does this go, if you don't mind me asking? Have you heard of the zone of alienation? I asked. Her eyes widened. My team and I conquered all the outer layers. Now we're progressing into the actual ruins with the help of the army. Astounding. Even the information in the tower about the zone is limited. Understandable. That place was spooky. Did you bring the books about runes? I did. She waved a hoof over to a table, where 10 very large tomes were sitting. These books detail all of the runes that the tower is aware of. My lady, may I have the honor of meeting the one who will be putting this information to use? I'm just about to head over to meet him now. You're welcome to join me. We'll be using the zone as an intermediary point, so you might have a chance to look around a little, too. Of course, my lady. The unicorns at the tower would do anything for an opportunity like this. To be honest, you're probably just going to be disappointed. The only thing magical about the zone was the big shield over it, and we already knocked that thing down. That can't be true, the mayor said. I've heard the weather inside changes constantly. The trees grow strange fruits and the ground grows amazing gems and metals with amazing properties. Surely some kind of fantastical magic has to be at work. Nope, it was all human technology running amok. It was a relic of an age long past, something that woke up prematurely. The shield was put there by the race that woke it up in an attempt to seal it away. But now that it found the one it was waiting for, it's no longer going crazy. Human technology? The zone was a human ruin. Yep. Before she could continue pestering me, Kot walked in with one of the guard unicorns. Silence, will it be alright for you to join us? I'd rather have a guaranteed way to get back. He bowed his head. Can you carry those books on that table for us? He grabbed them with magic and trudged over to the circle. The 3 of us joined him. Kot, of course, latched back onto my side. The mare paid it no attention, since she was excited about getting to see one of the final burial grounds of my people. Soon enough, we teleported halfway across the country. The sudden temperature drop made me shiver. This is it, I said as we all looked around. The mare was giggling in glee, staring at a large orchard of trees growing up in seconds, then sprouting full fruits of all types. Each tree had several different fruits on it, some that I recognized but most that I didn't. Now that the relic is on our side, we can do things like grow as much food as we want and change the weather however we please. Amazing. Simply amazing. I will be forever grateful that you took me in, my lady. I would love to have a chance to study here. There's a group that goes between the zone and my house every day. You're welcome to join them, at least until the university opens. Then you'll need to choose whether to teach or to research. But for now, this is merely a layover. We need to move on before the ship starts moving. Right this way, Countess, Kot said, gently pulling me along. Before we could get far, we were joined by 2 water elementals, Brooke and Ice. Welcome, Navarone, Brooke said with pink eyes. What brings you by? At the moment, I'm merely passing through. I have some things to deliver to the ship. Is the circle still active? They'll remain stationary for slightly less than 2 more hours, Ice replied. I would like to take a moment to thank you for dealing with Aqua. We all knew the fate you gave her was just, but to have one of your kind in such a state feels unpleasant. Now, at least she is at peace. The coma reminded me of what I do to my enemies, I said. Despite all my attempts to neutralize her, I knew Aqua would always find some way to resist me. Keeping her around as an example had benefits, but too many risks. As of now, Daria has been a much more pleasant alternative. My head suddenly felt slightly warm and I heard a soft giggle. It's hard to come back from that kind of corruption, Brooke said. But after we were purified, we all came to the agreement that we would keep each other honest by sharing nanites with each other. If we're all constantly watching each other, surely we can avert any further tragedies. Like brainwashing the kobolds into moving to my territory? I ask. Yes, an event like that is something that would not happen if we all watched each other constantly, not that I have any idea to what you might be referring, Brooke said. For some reason, though, her eyes turned a very dark blue. I'm referring to when Mist forcefully turned the kobold chieftain into a host, then told him he was moving to the Everfree. The two water elementals stared at me silently, turning darker blue by the moment. It was shortly after the ship left the island. It was one of the many fun things the coma showed me. Anyway, we need to get going. I'll talk to you two later. Kot began pulling me along again. Farewell for now, my lady, I said. We'll talk to Mist about, Yeah. Sure. Both of them hung their heads as we all walked past. What were those things? The mayor from the tower whispered to Silence. You're better off not asking him anything, I said. And those were more human relics, intelligent machines that have the ability to invade a mind, take it over, and change it however they please. You'll get used to seeing them. If you'd like, you can try to get one to make you a host. You'll be able to live for much longer, you'll be able to breathe underwater, you'll have improved healing, and they can provide a variety of other benefits. There are also, of course, downsides. After some time in your employ, I would like to return to the tower to speak to them, the mayor said. The work that is happening there is certainly important, but they can no longer close their eyes to the world. Living machines, a field of crops in an instant, human ruins, and mysteries galore. Just a few hours working for you has gotten my heart pumping more than it has in years. Don't hurt yourself, I said. Thankfully, the teleport circles were all fairly close. At the moment, the particular circle we wanted was being guarded by two of Celestia's gold shirts, both unicorns. Are you planning on heading to the ship, my lady? One of them asked. I am. I have some important books to drop off. Please wait about 3 more minutes, the guard said. Items are currently being loaded onto the circle on the other side to be delivered here. Until the circle is clear, we can't send you. Understood. How's working at this place? Humbling, the guy said. Everything I thought was only possible with magic, made doable through sheer human will. Jonathan explained that the humans essentially recreated life on the planet. Apparently it's thanks to your species that we even exist, my lady. That was a very long time ago. Humans may have been the catalyst for life to be reborn on this world, but enough time has passed that you've probably evolved past their expectations. Even so, the guy said, looking around at all the wonders surrounding us. It feels like we are still foals just standing on the shoulders of giants. The wonders of humanity are many and vast, but at the end of the day, our own weakness killed us, I said. It was all we could do to cast a light of hope into the future. I don't know if you'll believe it, but one thing humans never had was a floating city. Cloudsdale floored me when I saw it. We may be able to use machines to control the weather, but humans couldn't live as harmoniously with nature as you can. That's something only magic provides. Having lived in both worlds, which do you think is better? The other guard asked. If I was forced to pick between the two, I'd say technology. It provides everyone with benefits. Magic can definitely be useful for society, but anyone can use technology. However, being in my position means I no longer have to choose. My new goal is to take what humans knew of technology and combine it with what ponies know of magic. That's what we heard, the first guard said. The crafts ponies on the ship are working on that right now. Is this upcoming shipment going to be prototypes? I ask. We're being shipped a new type of golem, supposedly for excavation purposes. We don't really know the details, though. I guess we'll find out soon. And then soon became now as 10 hulking figures appeared on the circle before us. Mixed among them was Sunshine Smiles, one of my blacksmiths. My lady. Hello, Smiles. Are things going well on the ship? Yes, of course. At least he didn't stay flummoxed for long. Are you teleporting over now? That was the plan, I said with a nod. I want to deliver some books and take a look around. Now, tell me about these archaeology golems. I finally looked one of them up and down. These models were based on centaurs, surprisingly enough. There were several loops of metal where you could attach ropes or equipment. One arm ended in a pickaxe while the other ended in a hand. The head was a large light bulb. All 4 legs ended in sharp-looking spikes that seemed hard to walk on, but would probably allow them to dig into the ground to brace themselves. Each one already had a set of saddlebags. These were a collaboration work between Master Jack and I, Smiles said. They're designed to help in the exploration of the bunker. Their pony-like frame allows them to carry weight more efficiently, while the human-like torso and arm give it reach and versatility. It's made to be a pack mule that can dig, bust through walls, and carry researchers to safety if ghosts show up. They look impressive, I said. I'm sure the field teams will be happy for the muscle. Are you going to drop them off personally? No, I'm just here to hand control of the golems over to the guards, he said. Supply Team Alpha, designate this pony as the new squad leader. He pointed at one of the guards. The golems didn't move an inch. That should do it. Tell the field teams to document any issues they come across and we'll send a team to patch the ruins. Got it, the guard replied with a nod. And this was the last delivery this time. Yes, sir. The ship will remain on location for another hour and a half before we depart. Our Lady should return before then. We'll keep the circle clear unless some pony actually needs to go through, the other guard said. With that, the guard leading the golems bowed to me and started trotting off. The golems followed, their spiky legs making an eerie noise. Once the circle was clear aside from Smiles, my small party stepped onto it. Are you ready? I am, I said. If you would. His horn lit up and we all got teleported to the deck of my giant yacht. End of Chapter 202.